I'm Jeanette Boyd and I'm from the Eurpoean Lung Foundation. I'm going to tell you a little bit today about the activities we do and a little bit about the Healthy Lungs for Life global awareness campaign that we manage, and then also about an initiative that we were involved in Amsterdam last year, which was about mapping air pollution routes in Amsterdam to find the sort of healthiest places to exercise. So they're the three things I'm going to cover today. So the Eurpoean Lung Foundation, we were founded, I've just noticed an acronym already, the ERS, which is the European Respiratory Society. They founded our organisation in 2000. The ERS is an international membership organisation of physicians, healthcare professionals and experts in the respiratory field. And they founded the Eurpoean Lung Foundation, which is our organisation, to really be the patient voice and to make sure that we could bring patients together with respiratory professionals to help influence lung health for the good. So that's what our role is, to try and bring the patient voice higher and really at the centre of what's going on within the organisation. So we also communicate the latest developments in lung health, and as I've said, we try and bring people together with all sorts of lung conditions to influence policy and guidance across Europe. So just to give you a little bit more detail about how we do it, we involve patients in research and guideline development because at ERS they have task forces which individual members decide on a topic that's of great interest to them, that perhaps needs some new thinking, perhaps needs updating, and they form a task force that will run for 2 to 3 years. And they get in touch with us usually and say, we'd like to get some patient involvement in this task force. And that's when we will pull together patients from across Europe to try to get as much representation as we can. And we tend to bring together groups to form patient advisory committees. And we also run a lot of European surveys online in different languages to try and gain wider patient perspectives. And this will feed into the research and guideline development. And then once, this is a very abridged version of what happens, but when the guidelines are finally published, usually with some patient views, perspectives, things that might have been missed if the patients hadn't been involved, so it's really crucial that we can bring patients together with professionals. We also produce a sort of lay version for the public and for patients, and we develop that with the patient advisory groups as well. And you'll see if you look at our website's available in 8 languages, and we have lots of fact sheets on there in even more languages. We're trying to make things as available as possible across Europe. And Graham mentioned the ERS Congress in Amsterdam last year. Every year it's a focal point for ERS. They have this huge World Lung Health Conference for respiratory professionals. And what we do is involve patients in the Congress, as Graham said, speakers in different symposiums. We have discussion workshops where we can bring patients along. So once we know what the agenda is, what topics are being covered, we go out and try and contact patients who would be willing to speak or willing to be involved. And one of the ways we do this and encourage people to get involved is through our European Patient Ambassador Programme called EPAP. And this is a free online training module for people like yourselves, anybody who's perhaps interested in finding out more about being a patient ambassador for your condition. And it takes you through, it's quite a basic knowledge of skills, so some of you may already have all that anyway, but if you're at all interested in getting involved in something at a European level, do have a look at it. As I say, it's free, you can pop in and out of it, have a little go, see whether it's giving you something useful. There's some leaflets about it on here as well. And so once people have done that ambassador training programme, that's our main pool to actually gather people for events like the Congress speakers and for other projects that we're trying to get hold of people for. The other things we do help set up new patient organisations around different lung conditions, where mainly in countries where there aren't any. So often we may get a professional who actually says, we could do with a patient organisation in our country, and we can help support them, put them in touch with people to show them how it's been done in other countries. We also produce this little booklet here, which is facts and figures on lung health in Europe, and it's a summary of a much bigger book that the European Respiratory Society produced on lung health. And again, it's a way of just really bringing out the main stats and trying to raise awareness of lung health in Europe. There's a few copies there as well, if anybody's interested. And I'm going to talk about the Healthy Lungs for Life campaign in just a moment, but that's another main part of our work. So the way we communicate all our activities, it's mainly through our website, Eurpoeanlung.org. As I've said, it's in 8 languages. We also have a patient organisation network. So we have about 160 of the main respiratory patient organisations in Europe on our website now. I think this group is actually on there, or a related group. So basically you can register your details of your group and just the basics about what you do, what conditions you cover, what country you're in. And it's just a way of networking, finding out what other organisations are doing in other parts of the world. We produce a monthly e-newsletter. Again, that's another way of finding out what's happening across Europe with different conditions. You can also, we have a patient org roundup in there, so if you've got an event or something happening that you want to raise awareness of, that's another place you can get some publicity about it. We post news of latest research, information on projects on our website every day, so it's quite current. We have a Twitter account. And as I've said before, we have lots of fact sheets on different lung conditions. So the Healthy Lungs for Life campaign, I don't know if you've heard of it. Yes, some have. It's an ongoing campaign, so it runs year to year. So the overarching banner is Healthy Lungs for Life, and every year we have a different theme. So this theme is Take the Active Option, which runs until September this year. And there is a website that actually gives a lot of information about the campaign. And what happens is at the ERS Congress, that's the focal point for really getting a lot of media attention about the campaign that year, encouraging, we hold lots of events, and then we encourage patient groups around Europe to go and run their own events in their own country. This year's ERS Congress is in London, and the theme is going to be breathe clean air. So if anyone's interested in getting involved in events in this country, now's a good time to be thinking about it as well. There is a quiz. I was thinking of doing it, but I think we'll press on. You can do that perhaps in your own time. You can go on this link here on the Healthy Lungs for Life, and it really gives an example of how we're trying to raise awareness of lung health, giving people sort of making them think about what's good for me, what isn't. So really, the last bit I wanted to tell you about was this particular initiative. We worked with an organisation based in Belgium called Vito, who've actually sent me these slides. So I'm working to somebody else's slides, so hopefully I've got the information right. But at the Congress last year, we wanted to do a large initiative that was linked to the Healthy Lungs for Life campaign about taking the active option. And this particular organisation, Patrick was our main contact. They actually measure air quality. They have 20 years experience of measuring the air quality and building maps that will show where clean air corridors are across cities. And we thought it would be great to produce a map in Amsterdam for the Congress delegates and for anyone who's actually in Amsterdam that shows which of the parts of Amsterdam it would be easiest to walk or cycle or run along. This is how they do it, Vito, this particular organisation. They have these black carbon mappers, that little portable device you can see. And what it does is it measures the black carbon in the air, which is one of the main components of air pollution. And how it works, this is a very non-technical way of describing it because I don't know the technical way, but volunteers walk a particular route or cycle a particular route or run a particular route, and they take these portable devices with them. And at 20-minute intervals, it draws in air and the black carbon, and using GPS navigation, it can monitor the location, the weather, what time it is, and how much black carbon was at that particular point of the route. And I'll tell you a little bit more about how we did that in Amsterdam. But from this data, they can then generate maps which show the sort of hot spots. So where the red parts are, it's where the most black carbon was in existence. So it helps to identify the sort of cleaner air routes. And then they use a tool called AirQMap, which sort of analyses the data and produces a map well, it produces a street level black carbon exposure map is how they describe it, but I'll show you what we produced. Oh sorry, before that I'll show you this one, which was a map they produced in Antwerp. And this group of people were the volunteers who went out walking the streets of Antwerp. And this map, it's not very clear, but again, this key at the right shows where the red is where the most air pollution is. So in Amsterdam, we worked with Vito to create this city map, a Healthy Lungs for Life biking and walking route. And we worked with a Dutch lung health organisation, a patient organisation called Lung Foundation, based in Amsterdam, and some local university volunteers who volunteered to walk and cycle some of the streets in central Amsterdam to try and get some air quality data using the carbon mapper device that we saw earlier. So each volunteer, over a period of 4 weeks, did 25 journeys across different routes at different times of day, taking the mapper, which then takes in the black carbon, and all this data was then analysed to create a map. I've got a copy here which you can probably actually see, which actually shows the walking and cycling routes that we actually created on this map to show which were the best routes to walk if you wanted to do some physical exercise but have less access to pollution. And the Amsterdam Tourist Board have put that on their website, so it's left there as a bit of a legacy. We got a lot of publicity for it, and that's just one of the quite interesting developments that are going on. And if anybody is interested, and I don't know enough about what's happening in Manchester around these sorts of things, and if it's something that people feel is important to put pressure on the council, what are they doing to monitor air pollution? It's something that could be useful to do. Because although the devices are quite expensive, I think they're about £5,000 for one of those devices, because volunteers can be used. A lot of the researchers are keen to work with volunteers. If they'll do the legwork, go out and do the walking, they will then analyse the data for free or at no cost. So it isn't quite as prohibitive as it might look at first sight. So that's really the things I just wanted to tell you about, a little bit about the work we do. But if anybody's got any questions about any of that, please feel free to ask. Yeah, I'll try.
The government do put monitors around, air quality monitors. However, they don't always put them in the right places. And they analyse them up, because rather than being adjacent to a main road where they put them, you know, one place where it's actually in between two fields and it's at least a mile from traffic. So they're never going to get the correct data if they don't do the correct.
And I think because they're static, this gives more higher quality data because you're moving and you can get a sort of broader picture is the idea. And I think, I mean, we've got one of our fact sheets here you might be interested in. It's exercise and air quality 10 top tips, and it's really giving some ideas of how to find the best routes, how to make doing exercise worthwhile. Because I think there's growing research that exercise, and I think this is what Vito, this is why they're doing what they're doing, that even though air pollution can be detrimental, the effect of doing exercise is usually better to do that, even though...
That was the take-home message of the ERS, actually.
Yeah, that will be the take-home, and that's the take-home message of this, I think. Yeah. But it's worth, and that's why I think these sort of projects are really good. If we can get more of this mapping done, it can help people exercise in a way that's not going to damage their health.